Hello, you thought. I'm just going to give you a few tips about how to approach some of the questions on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday's work. So you will have noticed you've got some papers. They look like test papers, but you don't need to think of them as tests. They're just exercises to work through. So I've picked out a few of the kinds of questions that might cause a few problems. So one question I've got here at the top of the page, 3 times 6 times 2. So all you need to understand with this kind of question is that it doesn't matter the order that you multiply in. So you can pick to do 2 times 6 times 3 or 3 times 6 and then double your answer. Or you could go 2 times 3 and then times your answer by 6. So I'm going to show you that you should always end up with the same answer. So if you were to go 3 times 6, so 3 times 6 is 18. And then whatever answer you get, you've got to multiply it by 2. So 18 times 2, I know that's 36. If you didn't know that and you wanted to work it out like this, you can just do yourself a little calculation. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 1 is 2, add on 1, 3, 36. Okay, so you could also go 2 times 6. So 2 times 6, we know that's 12. And then you've got to multiply that 12 by 3 because that's the remaining digit. So 12 times 3 is also 36. So I'm trying to see if there's another way we could do it. So you could go... you could do 3 times 2, so 3 times 2, so if we multiply the two outside numbers, equals 6, and then you've got the 6 in the middle that you haven't used, so you times it by 6, and yep, it's going to give you 36. So some of the numbers might be bigger, so let's try this one. If we went 4 times 7 is 28. And then you've got to multiply your answer by 3. So you probably won't know what 28 times 3 is. You could work it out in your head, or you can just do a calculation. 3 8s are 24. 3 2s are 6, 7 8. So that comes to 84. Now, if you did it in a different order, so you could go 3 times 7. So let's write that down. 3 times 7, I know from my tables, that's 21. And then you've got to times that answer by 4. So 21 by 4. That one's a bit easier to do in your head. You could do 4 lots of 20. 4 lots of 1 would be 84. Or you can do a little calculation like that. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay. So hopefully that's shown you how to approach those questions if you couldn't remember. Right, there are some more fraction questions. And again, you may not have done this for a while. So if you get asked something like a third of a number, or a fifth, or a seventh. So if it's a third, you divide by 3. If it's a fifth, you divide by 5. If it's a sixth, you divide by 6. So a third of 21. Well, you're using your tables again. So we're talking about 3 times tables. So if you want to find the answer to 21 divided by 3, you're asking yourself how many 3's in 21, or 3 times what makes 21. So the answer is 7. So a third of 21 is 7. A fifth of 125, well, that's a slightly bigger number. So if we say how many 5's in 125, we might want to do it as a bus stop. Okay. You could say, well, I know how many 5's in 100, and then can work out how many 5's in 25 and add them together. Or you can just do a bus stop. So let's try this one. How many 5's in 1? So there are no 5's in 1, so we're going to put the 0 there. Bring the 1 across. How many 5's in 12 is 2. And a remainder of 2 left over. How many 5's in 25 is 5. So 1/5 of 125 is 25. Okay, now the next question is the one that tends to cause problems, this sort of question, because you don't want 1/5, you want 2/5. So I've just drawn a little diagram here. So if this is 1/5 of your chocolate bar, say, if we split it into 5 equal pieces, I know mine aren't perfectly equal, but you get the idea. So each chunk of chocolate is 1/5. There are 5 of them in the whole rectangle. Okay, so we worked out that 1/5, if this was 125 gram bar of chocolate, so that 1/5 would be 25 grams, but you want 2/5. So you want this bit and you want this bit. So 2/5 of 125 is going to be 1/5, which is 25, and you want 2 of them, so times 2. So 25 and 25 is going to be 50. If you wanted 3/5, you're going to have 25, 25 and 25, because each fifth is worth 25. If you want 4/5, you'd have 25, 25, 25 and 25, 4 lots of 25, which would be 100. Okay, so back again. We did some fractions last week and we were able to add fractions with the same denominator. So here we're talking about twelfths. So you might have some questions that ask you to add fractions and you'll be able to do that. So 6/12 add 5/12 would give you 11/12. You've just added the numbers on top, the numerators. You might find there's a takeaway, subtraction with fractions. Very simple again. You've got 7/12, you take 5 of them away. The answer's still going to be in twelfths. How many twelfths have we got left? 7 take away 5, we would have 2/12 left. Now there is a question a little bit like this. The numbers are different, and I think this one will stump some of you. So I'm going to show you how to make it a bit easier for yourself. At the moment we've got 1 take away 5/12. What you need to remember that the 1 can be split into twelfths. So because we're working in twelfths, how many twelfths in 1? Well, there are 12 twelfths in 1. If we're talking about eighths, there will be 8 eighths to make 1. Fifths, 5 fifths to make 1. So now we know that 1 is worth 12 twelfths. It's easier when we want to take 5 twelfths off. The answer again will be in twelfths, or whatever you're working in. 12 take away 5 is 7, so there will be 7 twelfths left. And then lastly, this question, I think, it's quite a tricky question because they've got something here as a fraction, and then over here you've got a decimal. So you've either got to change them both to make them into fractions or both into decimals. So I would say the easiest thing to do is change this one into a decimal. So 37 hundredths is like 37 pence really, because it's each hundredth would be a penny if you're talking about money. So you can write it as 0.37. And this one over here, 0.21, is 21 hundredths. So the thing about decimals is if you think of them as money, then they're much easier. So now you've got 37 pence, take away something, leaves you with 21 pence. So in other words, what's the difference between these two amounts? So if you count it up from the 21, you've got, say you've got 9 to get to 0.30 or 30 pence. And then you've got another 7, so 9 and 7 is 16, so I'm going to say 0.16. So if you add these two together, you should get that. Or if you take, so if you do 0.37 take away 0.16, you should get this. If you wanted to check, you can do 0.37 take away 0.16. So 7 take away 6 is 1, 3 take away 1 is 2. Decimal point comes straight down. There you go. Okay, so I think that's probably enough to get you through those papers and have fun doing them.